excited to be here. This is an amazing venue. Thank you guys for coming. Before anything else, let's give it up for the organizers. Like, is this the coolest event or what? Okay, so it is working again. All right, super. So as he said, I'm going to be here talking to you a little bit about international SEO. And my main concern is, so I'm Zeph Snapp. I do stuff. That's my team. I speak places. These are our clients. So what we do is we do Spanish SEO, we do link building, and we do trans creation. We'll be talking about all that stuff in a little bit. So I didn't want to get political with it because I'm actually not, well, I can vote, but I can't because I live in Mexico, so it's complicated. But this is a crew of comedians in my town who did this as a play. It's called The Sons of Trump. And it's 3 Mexican guys in Trump wigs. It's hilarious. So basically all I want to say is, the only thing I'm going to say about politics, as I speak for all of Mexicans when we say, we're not paying for that wall. Also, please let me back in. It's not working?
I don't think that was working yet. Try that.
Check, check. Can you hear me now?
Maybe I didn't turn it on for you. I think it was a trap.
No, it's on. Is it?
Hello? Hello? Okay.
All right, well.
All right.
Let's,
Could everybody hear everything I said before that? Well, all right. Then do I actually need this? Yes? All right. I kind of hate microphones, so. Anyhow, super funny show, not political. Please let me back in the United States when I go back to Mexico. Okay, so you guys know in a digital world, like, your physical location doesn't matter. You're going to be hearing from marketers today that are coming from places like Montana and New York and Mexico, and all of us are able to do our work and work for clients all over the world, completely independent of location. And you should be thinking about your business the same way. Now, I don't want to sound like Captain Obvious here, but there is a lot of people speaking languages that aren't English. These are worldwide statistics. The main thing is that on the internet is actually 85% English language pages, even though the user base is much lower than that. Now, we have Chinese Mandarin as number 2. I don't recommend that being the second language that you go for your business. It's going to make your life very, very difficult. But right after that is Spanish. Just the US market of US Hispanics would be the 13th largest economy in the world. And we're all coming online at a crazy rate. In Latin America, you're just seeing the market exploding. And this is partially because cell phones have become really cheap. So there's a lot of people in Latin America who their primary way of getting on the internet is their phone. So this should definitely be a consideration for you if you're thinking about doing marketing. Now, in the United States, this is actually from 2010. These numbers have changed quite a bit since then. But I love that Tagalog is super high on that list. That's actually, Tagalog is a really interesting language if you look it up. So, okay, you're like, super, but I live in Oklahoma City. What does this have to do with me? Almost 10% of the people living in your state are Hispanic. And the majority of those are at the very least bilingual. Oh yeah, sorry. I'll let that sink in for a minute. So, a bunch more statistics. Yup, super important, right? You guys get it? Should I spend more time on this? No, okay. This one I actually like. I mostly like it because of the bummed out lifeguard in the back. Like, that has to be the worst job ever. You're the lifeguard at the Olympics. I mean, on the one hand, like, you got a front row seat, but it's like, well, yeah, so she looks super happy about it. Anyhow, 77% of Hispanics feel underserved, right? That means that most of us as digital marketers are not doing our jobs. We're not addressing the needs of a very big piece of the consumer base. So these are Spanish language speaking countries. The dark ones are where Spanish is the primary language. The red ones are where it's the second biggest language. So okay, we're going to talk a little bit about like the technical aspects of Spanish language SEO or of international SEO. I know it's really exciting. We're going to talk about exciting things like hreflang markup. Woo! All right. So the first thing we're going to address is how are you going to set up your multilingual site? So the first thing you need to consider is, are you going to go with a subdomain, a subfolder, or a ccTLD? So this is a subdomain. The pros of having a subdomain is where it's basically es.yourwebsite.com. The advantage of that is that you're going to have better security. You're going to be able to give third-party users access to it without giving them access to the rest of your site. And in general, it's just going to be a safe option for you to go with. However, the problem is that Google considers this as a brand new site, which means that you're basically going to start over from scratch. The second thing you can do is a ccTLD. This is a denomination at the end of the URL, which designates a country. And so if you're working on a project that's just for the United States, this isn't the recommended option, because Google is going to see this as a signal that the site is from a different country. So you don't, if you're a local business, you don't have to go out and buy yourname.es or anything like that. And it's really good for physical locations, right? So if you're like Hyatt, or if Home Depot is opening branches, then of course you're going to need that MX domain for Mexico. But if you're just here in the United States, this probably isn't going to be nearly as important for you. Now, the New York Times, they've gone with my preferred option when you're starting out, which is the /es. And what's beautiful about this is, for users, it still looks legit. It's still a Spanish language site, but you also get all of the SEO benefits of your previous site. So, like if you were looking at a Shopify site and you looked at their domain authority, the metric that Moz uses to measure how important your site is, it's going to show up as 0 when you start out. But if you do it the way the New York Times went, everything that comes off that subfolder is going to have the same domain authority, which means that you're going to be able to rank for your terms faster. You're going to have to spend less time on SEO, at least in the outset. So okay, hreflang. I'm just curious. Anybody, who's heard of hreflang in this room? You? All right, more than I thought. Cool. Okay, so hreflang is a markup that Google gave us, and the intention really was to avoid duplicate content, right? So the problem is that if you have a page that has your English language content and a page that has your Spanish language content at the same time, then if there isn't a markup there, then Google's going to look at it and say, well, this is the same as this, and they could give you a manual or algorithmic penalty for it. So what they did is they gave us this markup that you can see. It says href there, and then it gives you the example / and then it's language, country, right? And so basically all this is saying is Google is saying, this site is meant to serve this market. So you do it by language and by country. So we know this is kind of a pain, and it's hard to remember the ISO designations for this, and you should use the ISO designations. So we built a generator. If you're going to do a multi-language site, you can go to this URL. This will be on SlideShare later. You don't have to worry about writing it down right now. But you can go in and you can just paste in your URL the language and the country that you're going to target, and it'll spit out the code that you need to put in your header, which is really nice. And then we also have a validator there as well. So if you've already applied it, you can go in and have it check your header and say, oh, okay, yes, everything is legit, everything's the way it should be, and you're in good shape. Now, the one thing I should mention about that is that you need to make sure that it's self-referential. So if let's say you're targeting 3 countries, let's say you're targeting 3 countries plus your own, you're going to need to make sure that you have it marked up as this page is EN-US, and then this page is EN-GB, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we talked about this, look that up. You'd be shocked at how often this happens, where people mark it up and they put in EN-GB, which is correct, but instead they put in UK because they think that that's the official designation. So that's an error that we see all the time. Another way that you can apply hreflang is on the sitemap, and this, generally speaking, is a giant pain in the rear. But Paul Shapiro built a little, basically, piece of code that will help you build that sitemap. I highly recommend it. Like I said, this is all going to be on SlideShare, so if you need this tool, use it. Also, tweet it, Paul. He has no idea I put this in here, so if we can blow up this sort of feed, that'd be fun. So okay, now you've kind of got yourself set up. You've done all the markup in the code. Now let's talk about how you're actually going to localize the website. Yeah, I love when I say that. So the first thing that you need to think about is translation versus transcreation. So the difference is when you're translating something, you're basically going for a one-to-one. And unfortunately, that's not really the way that language works. There is no direct translation for a specific word in a specific context. We all communicate in different ways. There are cultural differences as well. But just in the language, just the way that things are written, it's going to be very different. So transcreation, well, transcreation is basically where you take the spirit of the thing and the understanding of that, and you apply that to the new language. Now, machine translation is something that people use a lot. They're like, oh, I don't need to translate my website. I have Google Translate button. It's fantastic. You especially see this in the car dealership space. There's a lot of websites like, oh, no problem. Except for that the user experience is, well, yeah. And that was one good example. I could give you like 100, I swear. I could be up here all day doing this. So the other thing you can do is you can go out and you can go hire a freelancer to do this work for you. This can be a good option. The difficulty is that especially if you're paying by the word, there's no incentive for that person to actually care about your website. And so if you are going to go this route, make sure that you have a second person who you've hired as well to edit and vet the work that you've done. The other part is that translators a lot of times come from technical backgrounds or academic backgrounds, so they're not really concerned with selling. They're not really concerned with like actually marketing your site and your services. We have a saying in Spanish. It's lo barato te sale caro. I just had to show off for a minute so you guys knew that I actually speak Spanish. And what it means is going cheap can be very expensive, right? Like if you translate your website, you do it poorly, and you miss out on clients that could pay you $500,000 a month, then you're losing money, right? So that you know, going cheap at the beginning is going to cost you in the end. So if you hire a marketing agency, like Ultra Direct, then and there's many other good ones as well, but basically they'll make an effort. They'll understand your business. They'll write copy that will be designed to sell. Because at the end of the day, that's what your website is supposed to do for you. So the other thing I like to do is I like to pick out things that I see online. I like to kind of give people a hard time. So I apologize in advance if any of you work at the sites that I'm going to mention. But I don't apologize too much because it's not very good. So okay, so I get targeted. I live in Mexico, so I get targeted with all these ads on Facebook. So I figured I'd go with that for now. Now these guys, I was like, oh, this is super relevant to my interests. I would also like to be in better shape. So I want to buy some products. Except for, so you go, okay, you have a spelling error in the ad itself, and then when you actually go to the site, everything's in English. So basically, I have to be bilingual in order to understand this. Yeah. Yeah. I love Joel McHale. He's, again, one of my favorites. So this is another one. This one was not quite as relevant to my interests, but it was a good example. So what they've done is they've translated the ad. That's good. They translated some of the content. But the thing that's weird is they put it in Mexican currency. Now, you're like, oh, sweet. They localized it, right? That's amazing. Except for that they say up at the top, there's free international shipping for orders over $30. So now you're making me do math. And in my experience, when the customer is confused, the answer is always no. Right? I'm like, how many mandala rugs do I need? Right? Like, I gotta buy 3 of these? I mean, yeah. So my last example is Weber grills. This is also relevant to my interests. I love to grill. Hashtag beard gang. Anyhow, so I don't know why that was relevant. I just see a lot of people with beards out there. So these guys actually did a really good job, right? The ad is in Spanish. The picture, the text that they have marked up on the picture is in Spanish. All of the descriptions are in Spanish. And this took them a little while. They had to put some effort into this, right? But I am much more likely to buy a grill from Weber than I am to buy a Mandala rug, and not just because I don't care that much about rugs. But they even translated their cart, right? And this is something that the big e-commerce players are now accounting for. You can go to Shopify and you can get themes in Spanish. BigCommerce is working on this as well. And there's tons of WordPress options for Spanish language also. So people are playing like this. Yay! Someone did it right once. So we'll talk a little bit about link building. I don't want to take up too much of everybody else's time, but link building is obviously important. The first thing that we always, anybody watch Narcos? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. So what I love about Narcos is that it's like a show that actually makes you guys read subtitles, which is amazing, because we're always the ones that have to see the subtitles of your stuff. So link reclamation. If you've done a significant amount of content marketing and you have a good amount of links, the first thing you want to look at is your existing backlinks and how you can basically reclaim those and use them to benefit your Spanish language site. So the first thing you want to do is you can go to OSC or Ahrefs, grab all your backlinks, and then we built a language detector that we use in-house, so you can drop those links into the language detector. It'll tell you what language they're in, and then you can do outreach to those specific sites in their language and actually get a response. Now, the other way that you could do this is you can start thinking about content placements, otherwise known as guest posting. I just love rebranding stuff. And you can use the link prospector or Google Advanced Operators, or simply just manual review if that's what you want for sites in your industry. And Link Prospector actually has like 6 languages available. It's a fantastic tool. It's made by Citation Labs. I highly recommend it for anybody who does this kind of work. And then the other thing that we found when we started doing link building 6 years ago was that conventional CRMs and outreach sites like Pipedrive and BuzzStream, their contact finder doesn't work in Spanish. So it's not going to find the information that you need. So we built our own. And we give it away for free. If you want to use it, go ahead. All you have to do is put in a URL there, or you can log into the CRM, and it'll find the contact information for just about any site in Spanish. The other thing that we found that's very interesting about outreach is, in general, in English, your outreach should be very short and very pithy. When we've used the same types of emails as the stuff that you guys send as pitches that do really well, it's fallen flat for us. Because in Spanish, we need to be romantic. We need to take more time. So a longer email where you talk about why you care about what they're doing, who you are. I mean, literally, we write paragraphs. It's crazy. And the other thing that we found that's very interesting is the best way to get a response is to go through the website's contact form rather than reaching out to them directly via email. We also do a lot of outreach via social media for the same reason. So it's a lot easier to pitch that way as well. Now, the last thing you can do is you can create big pieces of link bait. And this is something we actually did for Shopify. And having these big guides and doing outreach on behalf of them is really effective in Spanish because you're making these websites feel important. Here, at least it's been my experience that in English, we kind of have outreach fatigue, right? Like, you get 20 pitches a day and you're just like, leave me alone. Well, in Spanish, it isn't that way. So they don't get nearly as many, so they're more excited about it, they're more interested in it. So if you can give them a piece of ego bait, if you can give them something that's going to promote them, it's going to give them something to talk about, they're going to be much more interested than they would be otherwise. Now, I didn't want to go over on time. I could talk about this for hours, but I just want to talk about social media for a minute. It's in the Spanish language community, it's very common for businesses not even to have a website, simply to have a Facebook page, and to use that page as their de facto business site. And so Facebook is going to be a huge part of any strategy that you're going to do targeting Spanish speakers. And the Facebook ads actually allow you to target based on language, which is fantastic. We use that all the time. And the other part of this too is that the market reach for people on Facebook is incredible. Like I think in Mexico, I think it has a 95% penetration rate. Like 95% of people in Mexico who are online have a Facebook page, which is crazy. It's gotten to the point where like there are entire sections of Mexico where people think that Facebook is the internet, which scares me a little bit. but needless to say, you definitely want to integrate social media into any project like this. And that's basically it, guys. That's all I've got for you. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Zeph, thank you very much. If I may condense your talk into one sentence that you said.
Do it.
Romances in Spanish, I think it was. And I like that. So, romance. Please, romance me. Go on, romance.
¿Quieres que hable español? ¿Es por eso? Oh.
I just want a little bit of romance from you in Spanish. That's all.
Okay. I'm not a...
You know
Yeah.
romantic guy?
No, I am. Just, no offense, my wife's a little better looking than you
Okay,
are.
imagine your wife.
Oh, ok. Pues entonces, lo que me está pidiendo es que les hable en español y que les hable bonito. Pero el problema es que yo no tengo voz de Barry White. No es lo mío.
Perfect. Now, that doesn't sound right, of course. I certainly got excited. If you can capture the spirit of that in your marketing, then you're doing the right thing. So I have a couple of questions for you, and everybody, I forgot to mention this, that if you have questions for any of our speakers, then mention the Confluence Con on Twitter or on Facebook, and those questions will find their way to me, and I will read out a few of them. With your mention, your handle, and everybody can go follow you. It should be wonderful. Okay, so here's a couple of questions. First one is, how do you evaluate whether the leap into another language is going to be worth doing for a specific business?
Well, you basically do cost-benefit analysis, right? So you start out doing keyword research to see if there's terms around your services, and then you determine the cost of doing the project itself, and A plus B equals C. If there's enough interest, then should. But what happens a lot of time too is that people are getting inquiries, even though they don't have a Spanish language website. They go, oh, like, hey, maybe this is something that you should work on. Car dealerships are actually a good example of that, where they just have lots of people coming in who are speaking Spanish, so they build up a sales staff of bilinguals, and they go, oh, okay, well maybe we should have a Spanish website as well.
How does that work the other way around when, often is it the case that you're like, we're going to build you all of this, Spanish language stuff, and then you're going to need somebody to staff these inbound calls. There's going to be an expectation that you're bilingual as a company.
Oh, absolutely. Depending on the enterprise, sometimes that becomes like a deal-breaker where you say, well, we can't work with you until you have that kind of support. But the other thing that happens is in many cases, the type of support you're going to need is minimal, right? So if basically all you're doing is kind of like emailing queries, then you can have somebody who's external to the company handling that stuff. But if you're going to be, depending on the volume of your business, yeah, you're probably going to need to hire somebody.
And now thinking kind of, beyond SEO, marketing in general, I'm going to shoot you specific businesses, right?
Okay.
Right. The first one's going to be an events venue in the Western District of Oklahoma City.
Where is that?
It's actually not the district court downtown. It's here, and then you're going to say what would an appropriate level of investment be? Like what stuff they should do to do this?
Well, so we're talking about this venue. If we're thinking about it as a wedding venue, basically you're looking at the very least, you want to translate a landing page, and then you want to push paid traffic to it via Facebook and Google PPC, and then do some remarketing. Right. That's for them. That you're not going to need a lot more than that. Now, if you see some interest, then you keep going, but that's a good start.
Okay, let's get bigger. Let's do that. Let's do a hospital.
All right. So if you're a hospital, I'm not sure about the legalities of it. You might actually be obliged to have Spanish language materials at a hospital. And if that's the case, that's also a lot more urgent. So you're definitely going to translate your supporting materials and how-tos, and also like ways to avoid getting people to come to the hospital in the first place, right? So giving them information. That's a place where like a blog would be really useful as well, and Spanish language social media presence, etc.
Okay. What about Hobby Lobby, who are headquartered here?
Translate all the things.
It's just a huge opportunity.
Yeah, it's like, well, also I'm using the row we when I talk about people from Mexico, which I'm allowed to do because I have a passport. we love like doing that kind of stuff. We love handiwork. We love doing things ourselves. So yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity there for companies of that size.
Can you say the name of your agency?
Of course, Altura Interactive, and if you Google my name, you'll probably find it. There's not a whole lot of Zeph snaps.
Yeah, that is a badass name.
Oh, it's not my fault.
Congratulations, thank you. Can everybody put your hands together, please? Zeph Snapp.